Hello and welcome to my channel Happy Hours. In my last video, I discussed about Tipu Sultan's role in rising of Mysore, about the rise of Marathas after the death of Shivaji as Peshwas. I discussed about the brave Peshwas like Balaji Vishwanath, Bajirao Pratham, Balaji Bajirao, his war with Ahmed Shah Abdali, which is also known as the Third War of Panipat, about the last brave Peshwa Madhav Rao. Then I discuss in brief about what happened after the death of Madhav Rao. In this video, I am going to proceed further and going to discuss about the Anglo-Maratha Wars, about the policies adopted by British to create British Empire in India. In the end, I am going to discuss about the great warrior Rani Chennamma of Kittur. So what are we waiting for? Let's discuss about the Treaty of Purandar first. It was between the English and the Nana Fadnavis in the year 1776 after the death of Narayan Rao. The conditions were as follows for the Treaty of Purandar. First was English gave up the support to Raghunath Rao. Secondly, 2,500 British soldiers were recalled, which were for the security of Raghunath Rao. But English never left the control over Salsette and Bassein. This provoked the Marathas and resulted in the First Anglo-Maratha War, which started in the year 1775 and ended in the year 1782. Governor-General Warren Hastings were involved in the war with many Indian states, particularly Maratha and Mysore. Maratha gave very tough challenge to English. Therefore, Warren Hastings, with the help of Maratha statesman Mahatji Scindia, concluded a Treaty of Salbai in the year 1782. It was an honorable treaty for both British and Maratha, as there was no territorial loss to any party. This treaty gave peace for the next 20 years. But policy of Warren Hastings was to create a buffer state around powerful Indian states, which is known as policy of ring fence. Warren Hastings wanted to cripple Maratha from all directions. After the Treaty of Salbai, Bajirao II became the Peshwa. He was involved in the internal conflict of Maratha. He played one Maratha Sardar against another. Therefore, Maratha power became very weak. However, English subjugated many powerful states, including Mysore. So English became more and more powerful in the power balance against Maratha. Peshwa Bajirao II concluded in the end a Treaty of Bassein on 31st December 1802. It was subsidiary alliance treaty. After this treaty, directly or indirectly, Empire of India was handed over in the hands of British. However, there is no reason to overestimate Treaty of Bassein because other Maratha Sardars did not accept it. They had individual fights with the English, which is referred as the Second Anglo-Maratha War, which started in the year 1803 and ended in 1805. All the Maratha Sardars individually had war with British. They were individually defeated also and accepted the subsidiary alliance like Scindia. He concluded Treaty of Surji with Arjun-Gao. Bhosle had a treaty which is Rajpur Ghat Treaty. Only Holkar with Raja of Bharatpur gave tough challenge to British. Next comes the Third Anglo-Maratha War in the year 1818. Peshwa Nana Sahib realized the mistake, therefore tried to come out from the control of British. He attacked Poona, residency of British. Meanwhile, there was a revolt of Pindaris. They were local rebellious youth. Therefore, Lord Hastings sent huge army to suppress the revolt of Pindaris and annex Maratha in Bombay Presidency. It had established the British paramountcy in India. Paramountcy is the stage where the ruling power exercising complete control over the foreign and domestic affairs of the ruled. Now let us understand the reasons for the defeat of Maratha. First reason is that they were not having the internal unity. The Maratha were divided among themselves, like Bhosle, Sindhia, Gaikwad, Holkar, etc. They never unite. Even we have seen in the Second Anglo-Maratha War, they were fighting all alone. Next is the loss of statesmanship. Leaders like Madhav Rao, Mahatji Sindhia, Nana Fadnavis, Rani Ahilyabai, they all died in 18th century. And now there was a lack of leadership. And the Maratha power was in the hand of people like Baji Rao II, who was creator of disputes among the Maratha Sardars, and even in the end he joined hands with English. Next reason is limited economic base. Maratha were having only the Chaut and Sardeshmukhi for the collection of money, whereas English, they were having the company, so they were doing the trade, and they captured Bengal, Bombay, Madras, in the end even Mysore. They were having more sources of income. Next, there is the traditional weapon use. The Marathas were using sword, archery, etc. But English, they were having the modern weapons. Fifth reason is the lack of feeling of nationalism. Marathas were fighting among themselves and even with the border states. Also, they don't have the feeling of unity and nationalism. Sixth is the transition from guerrilla warfare to modern warfare. We all know Maratha were using the guerrilla warfare from the time of Shivaji. It is useful during the small war, but for the long big wars it is not useful. So they were transiting. Next is, and the last is, feudalistic forces failed to compete against the capitalistic forces. Now let us understand the policies that had created British Empire in India. The first is policy of conquest by economic control. 1757. Bengal is the best example. In 1717 they got the Farman. In 1757 there was the Battle of Plassey. In 1765 they got the Diwani right of Bengal. And finally they make Bengal presidency. Second is the policy of indirect subordinations, or we can say policy of subsidiary alliance. Third one is the policy of conquest through direct war, also known as direct subordination. Next is the policy of doctrine of lapse. And the last one is the policy of maladministration, or we can say that misgovernance. I am going to discuss about the second, third, fourth and fifth one by one. As I have already discussed about the policy of conquest by economic control. Now let us discuss about the policy of indirect subordinations or policy of subordinary alliance, or we can say subsidiary alliance. It was the brainchild of French Governor Dupleix. It was practically implemented by English Governor General Lord Wellesley, who was Governor General from 1798 to 1805. Here, British soldiers were appointed in the capital of native states. British residents were appointed to take part in the administrative part of state, so he is the member of the court. Entire expenditure of soldier and resident was responsibility of the native state. British wanted to control the foreign and domestic policy of native state. So there was no economic relation between the company and the state. And Nizam of Hyderabad was the first state to sign the subsidiary alliance, but British sent military first in Awadh state. Next is the policy of indirect conquest of direct war, where Maratha from indirect to direct had accepted the subordination after getting defeat in the war. Such as even the other states like Punjab, Sindh also, they fight and they were under the control of British. Next is the policy of doctrine of lapse. The policy was implemented by Lord Dalhousie. He was the Governor General from 1848 to 1856. He framed the policy that in case of absence of rightful heir, then the state would be annexed in British Empire. That means adoption is not guarantee of succession. Many states of India were annexed under this policy. Satara was the first state. Second was Jaipur. Third was Sambalpur. Fourth Baghat. Fifth Udaipur. Sixth Nagpur. Seventh Jhansi. Eighth Tanjore. Ninth Arcot. It was not a new policy, but company had implemented this policy against Kittur in the year 1824, which resulted in Kittur rebellion led by Rani Chennamma. In the 1834, Court of Directors had annexed states like Mandvi, Kolaba, Surat also. Now let us understand or discuss Rani Chennamma. She was the Indian Queen of Kittur, former princely state in the present-day Karnataka. She led an armed resistance against the British East India Company in defiance of paramountcy, in an attempt to retain control over her dominion. She defeated the company in the first revolt, but died as a prisoner of war after the second rebellion. Her husband died in 1816, leaving her with the son and the state full of volatility. This was followed by her son's death in 1824. She adopted Shivalangamappa in the same year and made him heir to the throne. This irked the East India Company, who ordered Shivalangamappa's expulsion. British commissioner did not recognize the new rule of regent and notified Kittur to accept British control. In 1823, Rani Chennamma wrote a letter to Bombay governor pleading her case, but requests were turned down, and the war broke out. In the first round of war during October 1824, British forces lost heavily, but they continued. Rani Chennamma fought fiercely with the aid of her deputy Sangoli Rayanna, but was ultimately captured and imprisoned at Baihungal Fort, where she died on 21st February 1829 due to health deterioration. Chennamma's legacy and first victory are still commemorated in Kittur during the Kittur Utsav held on 22 to 24th October every year. Next and the last policy is the policy of maladministration or misgovernance. If the state was not managed by its ruler properly, then the company will annex the state. Awadh and Lower Sikkim were annexed under this policy. It was a part of doctrine of lapse. By this, we have understood about the Anglo-Maratha wars, reasons of defeat of Marathas, and different policies adopted by British Company to establish British Empire in India. By this, I am concluding my video here. If you find my video interesting, kindly like, share and subscribe. Thank you.